Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, a battle royale inside a Seattle homeless encampment. This is your city, Katie Wilson. But before we get to any of that, time to talk about our governor, Bob Ferguson.
Yeah, it's not my name.
All right, Turd Ferguson.
Yesterday, Turd Ferguson brought out not a smorgasbord, maybe an hors d'oeuvre sampler of people he said were going to benefit off the income tax. People that were there to talk about how great the income tax was. And the more we dug into these people, the more we said, wait, something doesn't smell right about anybody Turd Ferguson brought up. If the income tax was going to have all these great benefits for society, should be really easy to find legit people. Instead, this is who you bring up. I want you to meet Brian Kirshner, another shill for Governor Bob Ferguson's income tax. He claims to be an AI strategist at IBM. Anybody still use IBM? Does IBM even still exist? They're not really up there with the tech people anymore. Now, I looked at his LinkedIn profile because business people usually have extensive LinkedIn profiles. And it seems like his LinkedIn profile isn't so much about tech. Instead, he identifies as fair housing, tax justice, health equity advocate, 1990s community policing reformer. That's your LinkedIn profile? I thought you're an AI guy. Shouldn't it be worked at Microsoft, worked at IBM, worked at all these tech companies? Instead, you're a 1990s community policing reformer, so you were wrong before everybody else was wrong? Is that what we're going with here? That's your claim to fame. Okay. Interesting.
I don't mean to sharpshoot you, but I do think IBM, as you know, we know it. Yeah, it's not really relevant, but they're the ones that have Watson.
Oh no, I get that.
So the AI stuff, if he was being truthful, which I'm not
we
saying,
don't know. We don't know. We don't know.
From what you're looking at, it doesn't.
It doesn't
sound great.
It doesn't sound like he spends most of his time in the AI world.
Sure,
especially when he talks about being a musician and hobbies. I mean, is this a dating profile or is this your LinkedIn profile? Look, I don't put pictures of my kids up on LinkedIn. I don't talk about like the date I had with my wife on LinkedIn. In fact, I rarely use LinkedIn. That's usually business related is what goes on over there. This is what this feller said over at Turd Ferguson's presser yesterday.
Good morning. My name is Brian Kirshner. I'm a technology executive who lives in Seattle and works in AI. I'm really excited to be here today, even though it just might cost me a little more. Last year, I had a wealth event when our company was acquired. When we file federal taxes, I will owe one big payment. Big. I wish some of it was staying here in Washington because I believe in paying what I owe. For too long, rich people like me have paid less than we truly do, thanks to a tax code skewed our way. So our state budget can't do right by all people. That's about to start to change with this millionaire's tax. For those saying us rich folks will leave if taxed, I can promise you we won't pack up en masse. And any who leave will be replaced. Washington is on the brink of creating a lot of wealth through AI. We are right to capture some of it and make sure everyone benefits through education, healthcare, and more tax fairness for small businesses and working families. I commend Washington's legislators and the governor for doing the real work of fixing our tax code so we can take advantage of what will be a generational opportunity to ask the wealthy to contribute more to create the kind of communities we all want to live in. Thank you.
All right, clapping seals. Let's just break down what he just said for a minute. The wealthy aren't going to leave en masse. Okay. Does the name Bezos ring any bells to you? How about the name Schultz? How about the entire Starbucks corporate headquarters? How about all the wealth that has already left? And clapping seals, I'm going to show that they have no idea what they're clapping for. I thought AI was a threat to the workers. You're just cheering him, talking about all the great stuff AI is going to accomplish to replace the workers. Here's something else. He talks about these millionaires that left being replaced. Who's dumb enough to start a company here in Washington with these new taxes? The answer is nobody. Nobody is going to start a company here. They're not going to be replaced. They're going to leave and not come back. Exactly, Hank Williams Jr. They're not coming back. They're not going to have their companies here. And a lot of them have already left. If they haven't left, why is there over a 33% office vacancy rate downtown? If they haven't left, why is there a 65% spike in $2 million plus homes going on the market? They are leaving. They have left already. Whatever this guy is spewing, he was brought up there because you can't get anybody who's legit to speak on behalf of this thing. Next up, we have Terrence Jeffrey Santos. Now, this guy says he's talking on behalf of a restaurant as a small business owner, and yet I looked up his bio. Community storyteller, magazine founder, filmmaker, cultural toy maker. But he's up there talking about restaurants? Did he make a documentary about his family's restaurant, perhaps? It doesn't seem like you're in the business, bro.
Hi, my name is Terrence Jeffrey Santos. I am part of that community of small business owners. My work can be falls under the title of community storytelling, and that work has placed me in two different industries: that of food and beverage, which I'm connected to Musang, an awesome restaurant on Beacon Hill, founded by a powerful Filipino American, Melissa Miranda. And I also work in the creative workforce, our creative economy. Just recently founding a new media company to tell our stories through visual means. And anyone in that community of small business owners can tell you that starting a small business, a new one at that, there are challenges that keep us from standing on strong financial legs.
Cool. What are they? We're going to talk about taxes? We're going to talk about onerous regulations? We're going to talk about the fact that nobody's dumb enough to start a business around here anymore? What are the challenges?
And anyone who's operated and owned a restaurant know that we survive on slim margins. But
why? Why do you survive on slim margins? What, because the minimum wage has been hiked through the ceiling? You said you're in Beacon Hill. That's Seattle. You going to talk about any of those problems? Going to talk about the B&O tax? Any of this stuff? You going to talk about any of the regulations? Or are you just up there to be another shill?
For this millionaire's tax, I have hope. Hope by specifically more cash on hand, otherwise known as cash flow.
Okay. All right. I'm stopping you right there because clearly you were sent up there with a script and you have no idea what you're talking about. You think that money from this tax is just going to be mailed to you? Just going to be deposited in your bank account? No. And here's something else, dude. Think about this for a second. The more people leave town, the less people you have for the restaurant I don't think you actually work at. I think you may have done a documentary for your family or something. These are the lies they are going to tell, even in the face of the lamestream media proving them wrong. Seattle Times yesterday ran an article by Gene Balk, their FYI guy. Dude, FYI is a little, I'd say 2005-ish, but sure, let's go with that. Talking about how the number of people who've been leaving Washington state has been growing since 2020. Meta, that's Facebook and Instagram, laid off more employees yesterday. Starbucks laid off more employees yesterday. The Tri-Cities Area Journal of Business had this article: Washington's status solidifies as one of the most expensive places in the U.S. to live or do business. Why would anybody stay here? You have lost your mind if you think they aren't leaving. You have lost your mind if you think this is going to help your business. It is not. It is going to make things worse. You know how I know this? Because unlike everybody else around here, I actually read the bill last night. I was waiting to see what actually got signed into law because these things change many, many times. And by actually reading it, I know what it does and doesn't do. So I took Turd Ferguson's press release and his remarks about what this thing does and doesn't do. Let's start with this claim. Less than 0.5% of Washingtonians will pay the tax. Okay, this is what they want you to grab onto. But even if you read it, it's estimated to affect about 0.5% of households. Estimated. First of all, that's not a guarantee, that's a projection. And second of all, this does not take into account that the wealthy are going to leave and that this thing is set up to tax everybody. It's also set up to tax everybody and redo our entire tax code because when they believe the Supreme Court of Washington rules, sorry guys, you can't just tax the millionaires, you have to tax everybody, they're ready to go. So this is not going to be less than 0.5%. Here's something else. They claim it will make life more affordable for millions. That's what he said. That's what Bob Ferguson said. Millions of Washingtonians. How? Where? There is literally nothing in the law that guarantees any part of your cost of living will go down. How about this? The bill does not apply to income under $1 million or the first $1 million of income. Well, like I said, as soon as the Supreme Court rules that they can tax everybody because just taxing millionaires is unconstitutional, that's what they're going to do. So you can just leave that alone. How about this one here? This one right here. They claim that 41.3% of revenue will go back to families. Then it goes up to 47.3%. Where is that in the bill? Where is that in the law? Where is that in the statute? It's not. The governor claims this means free meals for K through 12 students. Where? It doesn't say that anywhere in the bill. They say they intend to support things like school meals, but here's something else. The majority of the kids, 75% of the kids in Washington right now, get free school meals through federal funding. The only ones who don't are the ones who are too wealthy and don't qualify. So you just paid for free lunch for all the rich kids that go to Bellevue High School and Mercer Islands High School? That's what you just paid for? In theory? But it doesn't even mean the food's actually going to any of them? The money's actually going to any of them? How about this? Largest tax break in state history for small businesses. Not in the bill. Not in the bill at all. Sending a check to nearly 500,000 working families? Not in the bill. They claim it's tied to an expanding tax credit. Not a check to 500,000 people. Not actually going to happen. Reduce or eliminate B&O taxes for 138,000 small businesses? Not in the bill. These are projections that they're claiming and not in the bill. Investing more than $320 million into childcare? Not in the bill. Not there. It's not there. All this money they're claiming comes in goes into the general fund, not specific line items. That means they can spend it on whatever they want. If they want to spend it on trans surgeries for felons, they can do that. If they want to spend it on laser hair removal for felons, they can do that. If they want to spend it on self-service stations, in art galleries for men to do what they do to each other, which we have discussed far too often on the show, they can do that. Nothing they have claimed is actually accurate. How do I know this? Because I read the bill. So what's being done to stop this? How do you fight this? Everybody has a choice right now. Fight or flight. Those are your choices right now. So it's a multi-pronged effort. We know that yesterday, right before Turd Ferguson signed this thing, the Citizen Action Defense Fund announced that they're going to be suing over this, challenging it in court, and former Attorney General Rob McKenna, who's respected on both sides of the aisle, who actually gave a talk to the legislature laying out all the problems with this entire thing, is going to be leading the legal effort. That's number one. Number two, a lot of you right now are saying, Ari, what good does that do? The Washington State Supreme Court is in the way. How are you ever going to get past them? Well, guess what, my friends? A few of them have announced retirement, and a few of them are up for election. 5 open spots on the Washington State Supreme Court. How do you win something like that? Well, it's going to take a huge effort. Dave Larson, last time, only lost by 3,000 votes. 3,000 votes. And there's a lot more pissed off people this time because there's a lot of people who are mad on both sides of the aisle about this income tax. People say, don't do this now. Don't challenge them now. More people will leave. And here's something else, by the way. People who are showing up to the polls to vote against Donald Trump's agenda or whatever it is still want to keep money in their pockets. They're not going to back this just because they're Democrats. I actually think this gives you a better opportunity to go head-to-head with this. I really, truly do. Next up, initiative or referendum. After Turd Ferguson announced that he had signed this thing, Let's Go Washington's founder, Brian Haywood, announced they are going to referendum, which is easier than an initiative, to get the signatures we need. Now, if you go to Let's Go Washington's website, which is Let's Go WA, that's letsgowa.org. You head on over there. And what you do while you're over there, at the top, it says request referendum sheets, request ballot sheets, request initiative sheets. Sign up. They'll get sent right to your house. Have your friends and family sign them, mail them right back. This is going to take everybody. It's going to take everybody, and that only gets you to the ballot. That only gets it to the ballot. Now you got to win at the ballot box. And that means more people knocking on doors. That means more donations, so you could donate to Let's Go Washington over there too. Lastly, there has to be a pain at the ballot box for everybody, a penalty at the ballot box for everybody who supported this thing. We need to run candidates in a lot of races, and some of you have been in touch. Some of you have reached out. We're doing some vetting right now, seeing who has the best chance. We're working on it right now to try and make sure that anybody who supported this thing is challenged. Because there has to be a penalty for the people who backed this thing. There has to be a punishment at the ballot box for anybody who supported this thing. It's going to take knocking on doors. It's going to take raising money. It's going to take a huge effort that we have never done before. But make sure you understand this. What you're up against are all the lies that Turd Ferguson and the guy from the video company and the guy who allegedly works for AI told at that presser. They're going to keep telling them and telling them and telling them. But they just ain't true. The money goes into the general fund, and Bob Ferguson can do whatever he wants with it. You want me to defeat this right now? I thought they needed the millionaire tax because we had budget deficit problems. They then passed a budget which increased the spending by $2 billion. If you have a budget problem, if you have a credit card problem, you don't open more credit cards. You pay off the ones you have. If you have a debt problem, you don't take on more debt. You pay off the debt you have. You make spending cuts. You tighten your belts a little. Not here in Washington. They added $2 billion to their spending. $2 billion. Nothing they say is true. And I see them spewing these lies, and I see their allies like this AI guy and this alleged restaurant guy spewing the lies back in the comments. Usually I say it's not worth engaging in the comments. Well, guess what? On Facebook, it actually is. Facebook, you have a lot of people who don't know about this. Believe it or not, the majority of Washingtonians still have no idea this is even happening. No clue. You need to talk about it. You need to talk about it politely, respectfully. And you need to say, if it's just a tax on millionaires, how come the new budget has spending for 150 new agents for the Department of Revenue to create a new IRS? You don't need that many for only the 12,000 or 15,000 people they say they're taxing. You need that to go after everybody in Washington state, just like when Joe Biden was hiring his 70,000, 80,000 IRS agents. Their lies are so easy to pick apart, but the average person just believes what they read, what they see, and the average Washingtonian has no idea any of this is going to happen. As soon as they say, oh, it's just going to be a tax on millionaires, any normal, clear-headed person will say, isn't that how they started passing the income tax federally? Yes, exactly right. They said it was just going to be on the wealthy, just going to be on the high earners, and then it drops and drops and drops until it's on everybody else. Nobody likes an income tax because you know what? The American dream, everybody thinks they're going to be a millionaire one day, except for the people who want to consistently work as baristas and want Starbucks to pay for their life for all time. This is going to be a huge fight. There's going to be a political war. There's going to be a messaging war, and you got to get geared up for that. I want you to go to Let's Go Washington's website right now, letsgowa.org. Head on over there. Make sure you fill out the forms to get the sheets sent to your house because the first step is the initiative process. That's where we start. But right now, that's 4 battlefields we are fighting on. 4 battlefields. And we have to win this one. We have to win all of them. Because otherwise, I think Washington State is economically doomed. And I don't see how the way to get back from any of this. You got to think to yourself, is this by design to just doom Washington State? Because if I want to destroy the state's economy, everything Turd Ferguson, the Democrats are doing is exactly what I would do. You got to wonder what the motivation is. Is it just that they want us all so poor that we rely on the government? Or is it some more nefarious intent? Do they really want to see the downfall of a successful business mecca like Washington? Because I got to tell you, the damage has already been done. Lots of people already left. And it's going to take years, if not decades, to get them back, even if we stop all this. But if we don't stop any of this, the people who are here who said, I got one last fight in me, they're out of here. And it's only going to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Speaking of things getting worse and not getting better, Katie Wilson, Seattle. Yep, there was a battle royale in a homeless encampment. Wait, I thought these were safe places. These were just our unsheltered neighbors. Tell you about the violence when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show. So inside the Columbia Tower, which is Seattle's tallest building, if you look at a picture of the Seattle skyline, it's the big black building smack dab in the middle. The Columbia Tower Club is closing after 40 years in business. I have never been to the Columbia Tower Club, and I guess I'm never getting the chance to go now. Wasn't it the WAMU Tower for half a minute before WAMU went bankrupt? Wasn't it something like that? Okay, just making sure. I have never been up there. I've never been to their observation deck. Maybe that makes me a bad tourist because normally I like that kind of stuff. I've been to the Space Needle a whole bunch of times. I've never been up there.
I can't remember if I've been in there. I know I've been invited for like some media stuff or something related to that.
Yeah.
And I've seen the entrance to it.
Mm-hmm.
But if I did go, it didn't leave that much of an impression.
Right. It's not that, like, for example, I am always a tourist in my own city. So when I lived in New York, when I live in Seattle, whatever it is, I see all the stuff. Most New Yorkers, not like that. Most New Yorkers like, there's a giant aircraft carrier in the middle of our city, the Metropolitan Museum of Art. What are you talking about? Here in Seattle, I go to everything. I do everything, which is why whenever we say something's opening or something's closing, I love putting it in good news because I love this stuff. I remember the first time I found out there was even an observation deck at the top of the Columbia Tower was when I started working here. And I drove past the building, and on the side it goes, come to our observation deck. And I'm like, you got an observation deck up there? Had no clue. That's just bad marketing.
Here's another fun fact.
Yeah.
Back when radio stations, all of them had live traffic.
Yeah.
They were located, the company that offered live traffic, they were located at the very top by the observation deck.
Yeah.
And so I would go up there sometimes, like, because I knew people that worked there, and I thought, oh, it'll be cool. And the view up there is amazing.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's really cool. You have to take 2 sets of elevators to get up there.
I've been in the building.
Cool.
Right.
And that's memorable, and being up there is memorable, but I think I went to that club, and I don't.
So that's the thing. I've been in there because the planning department's in there and other government services are in that building, but I didn't know there was a club up there. I didn't know there's an observation deck. You know what I would have happily done? Anytime I had to sit there in the planning department before everything went online, you actually had to go down there. I would have taken my little ticket, and it says, come back in an hour and a half, or you have an hour and a half wait. I would have went to the observation deck. Even in the building, I had no idea that sucker was there. Now the club. Let's be real about this for a second. When you have a 33% vacancy rate, odds are you don't have enough people to go to your little club. My brother was in town for half a day yesterday. My brother came in. Normally, he doesn't get to see me. He works for one of the tech companies. But yesterday, his evening thing got canceled, and he goes, hey, you want to hang out? I'm like, great, let's hang out. I pick him up, and he says, what the hell happened here? I said, what are you talking about? He goes, usually I'm in my own little 4 blocks of Amazon world, and I don't go wandering, but I had to go wandering for an errand yesterday. And I went wandering, and there's nobody here. Everything's empty. What happened? And he's been coming here for years. For years. There's nobody here.
When you say Amazon, which office does he typically go to?
He's near the balls. Okay. It's one of the buildings near the spheres. Yeah. It's one of the shafts near the spheres. It's one of those over
Bezos'
there.
balls.
Yeah. Bezos' balls. It's right over there. So he said, where did everybody go? He said, he had a good line. He phrased it better than I could. It was something like, anybody I wanted to see, I didn't. And anybody I did see, I didn't want to. And my wife says to him, you see a lot of people doing the Fetty fold? And he goes, what's that? And she goes, you see a lot of people bent in half looking like they're doped out on drugs? And he goes, oh, yeah, I saw that all over the place. And she goes, that's the Fetty fold. So you've replaced all the business people downtown with empty offices and drug addicts. This is what you have now. I wonder why nobody's going to your club at the top of the building. Wonder why you're closing after all those years in business. You know what we've replaced this with, though? It's okay. We don't need the club. We don't need you and I never went. We don't need
I was going to say, but these hoity-toity kind of clubs like that, isn't the Rainier Club one of them as well?
Yep. Yeah, but I've been in the Rainier Club a lot of times. I knew that thing existed. I've been invited there a lot. People rent that place out for events all the time.
Sure, which would make sense because where that is downtown and how it's built. But getting up to this, what is it called again? What is this club called?
The Columbia Tower Club or whatever it is.
Getting up there is quite the process, like parking downtown or parking wherever and then going all the way up. It's cool once you get up there, like, again, because of where it's located, but really, like, Does anybody, even if
Well,
you
to be
make
fair,
a lot of money,
yeah.
want to go up there?
Well,
I
to
mean,
be fair, let's do this. This is a perk for people in the building more than anybody else, right? It's one of those things.
I always thought it was more like the Rainier Club sort of thing. But
No,
maybe
it is.
I'm wrong.
I was
Maybe
saying
I'm wrong.
it's both.
Yeah.
It's both things. But now you don't have anybody in the building.
Sure.
And now you
Right.
don't have anybody in the surrounding buildings. I kind of wonder how the Rainier Club stays in business. Is that just because it's prestigious and it's kind of like that old money kind of feel?
That's
of
what I think, and that's what I thought of this place. So I
Right.
thought maybe, but like even those kinds of things are not as robust, I think, as
They're
what
just
they
not.
used. They don't mean as much as they used.
They really don't. But also, how many people who are now the highty-tighty people are working from home?
Right.
And they don't even come into the building anymore. They don't even do that anymore. Instead, what do we have? You're gonna love this one. Detectives are investigating what they describe as a violent robbery with improvised weapons at a tent encampment inside West Seattle's Rotary Viewpoint Park Sunday afternoon. According to Como News, at 1 p.m., Seattle police officers were called to a report of an armed robbery near 35th Avenue Southwest and Southwest Alaska Street. Officers arrived to find 3 men, ages 28, 39, and 42, with significant head injuries. They were given medical aid at the scene and taken to Harborview. Investigators learned that several suspects sprayed a fire extinguisher inside the victim's tent. When the victims left the tent to escape the fumes, they were attacked. Police said the victims were hit in the head with improvised weapons, including a crowbar, a fire extinguisher, and a wrench. 2 of the victims lost consciousness during the attack. The 3rd victim had a severe cut on his head and was able to escape. These are Home Alone injuries. These are injuries you die from instantly. But this is what goes on in the homeless encampment. While 2 of the victims laid on the ground, the suspects went through their pockets, took everything they had. The suspects then ran away before police arrived. Anybody with information is asked to contact the Seattle Police Department. Ah, glorious. So, no more business people, no more clubs. Can't go to your parks because you might get hit in the head with a crowbar or a fire extinguisher by one of our unsheltered neighbors. As Katie Wilson likes to say with the hashtag, this is your city. Thanks so much, Katie. You're doing a bang-up job. Literally. When we come back, Eric Swalwell is all worried that the Fang documents are going public. Oh, I'm so excited. We haven't spoken about this in so long. We'll tell you what's up when we come back. You'll listen to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. You remember that Eric Swalwell allegedly had a thing with a Chinese spy named Fang Fang? Do you remember this mess? And it was a mess. Well, now the Trump administration has directed FBI agents to compile records of the investigation into Eric Swalwell and his past association with suspected Chinese operative Christine Fang, also known as Fang Fang. The decade-old inquiry, according to the New York Times, focused on Fang, who helped with fundraising efforts connected to Swalwell. The FBI ultimately closed the case, and the Justice Department did not file charges. Swalwell, though, is running for governor of California, and the FBI is now checking out his case. Joining us now to discuss on the Warrior Injury Law studio line is our very own Senate Representative Eric Swalwell. Welcome back to the show, my man. I was just wondering, can you explain to me whether or not you had an illicit affair with this Chinese spy?
I shagged her.
Oh, I didn't expect him to just come right out and say it. Sir, are you sure you want to be saying that on a radio show that has a lot of listeners?
I shagged her rotten, baby. Yeah.
Okay, dude, weren't you married at the time? I mean, did you use protection or something?
Of course. I had my 9mm automatic.
No, stop it. Stop that. Okay, I'm going to hang up the phone now because you're just going to implicate yourself way worse. Let's be real about this, what's happening right now in California. If you look at the polling, the Republicans are beating all the Democrats. Now, mind you, because there are so many candidates, they're splitting up that pie a lot. Do I think a Republican is going to become governor of California? Not so sure. But there's a possibility that because everybody's splitting the vote so much, you might have 2 Republicans advance into the top tier out of the primary, which means no Eric Swalwell, which means no Katie Porter, which means none of these guys, and then you might actually have a Republican governor. Eric Swalwell is always mad anytime you bring this up. Have you ever seen when people bring it up in Congress and he just starts yelling and screaming? It's a lot of fun to watch, by the way, because he kind of never wants to talk about this again. He's the one who let a Chinese spy into his office, and we don't know where else he let this Chinese spy. I'm very curious to see what they find out with the real investigation. I don't think it should be a witch hunt. I really don't. But I don't think we've ever had satisfaction about what happened with Swalwell and Fang Fang. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Sheila in Tacoma. Sheila, what's going on?
Hi, I was just wanted to comment about the Columbia Tower. Or the when it was first built, I worked downtown, and we used to go up to the top, and they had a bar, and they had a restaurant, and everybody was welcome. And I also had went there for parties, but it was a ball going. I mean, it was fun. They had good food, they had good hors d'oeuvres and drinks, and etc. And so, I mean, it's a shame that all of that, the good things about Seattle are disappearing.
Yeah, this is why we can't have nice things anymore, because here's the thing, Sheila. I've never been up there. You have, so you can tell me. I assume it was on the pricier side. I assume it wasn't affordable for the every person, right?
Actually, it was.
Really?
I mean, because it was in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. And, I mean, if I could afford to do it, you know?
I like the way you're talking about that. But even if it was affordable, right? That means you got to have people on staff. You got to have bartenders on staff. You got to have kitchen people on staff. And if nobody's coming, even if it is affordable, nobody's paying those bills anymore. And that's probably what took it down, because how many people are in that office tower? So I did ask an AI, not from IBM. I did ask an AI about what the occupancy rate was in that building. And it doesn't know because it's not publicly listed. However, based on the numbers of the rest of downtown, and that building is more high profile, which usually has less vacancies, they still estimate the vacancy rate in that building at 25%. If you have 25% of the building vacant, that is a horrible place to be, especially when people from other buildings may have come over and now those buildings have a 25 to 35% vacancy rate. Then you got a problem, right, Sheila?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But anyway, it was nice to meet you at this at the president's inauguration.
Oh, you came to that event at the bar. It was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
Wonderful. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful day to you and your staff.
My pleasure. Thank you for the call. Appreciate the insight. Thank you so much for listening, and thanks for coming to the events. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757.
So to clarify, I did a little more research on this.
Yes.
So when Sheila went, I think it was just a regular bar that opened up in the building. And
Yes.
so that's why I think it was more reasonable. But what is being shut down now is a private club.
It became the Posh Club.
Yeah, and it's apparently a part of the collective of a part of the City Club Collection, which currently has a location at South Lake Union and the Canterwood Golf and Country Club in Gig Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
So they're saying when this closes, they'll consolidate the memberships if they want to go to the one in South Lake Union.
My guess is a lot more people feel more comfortable going to the golf course than downtown Seattle.
Sure.
That would be my guess why people are probably going.
I don't know if they're offering that, but they are offering the South Lake Union.
The South Lake Union because you're still in the neighborhood and we don't want the riffraff at the golf club. I understand. I understand.
But the other thing that's mentioned in the article and things that have been known, and Sheila actually mentioned this to me on the phone, is that apparently the women's bathroom, the window they have in the view of the sound of Seattle, basically is the best view. Like it's been voted best view like anywhere in Western Washington.
So it's better than the view at the 5 Points where you look through that little pipe, which goes and looks at the Space Needle. And you go, oh, that's a Space Needle. What's in that little pipe there? And in a dingy bathroom, not usually the best idea to look through anything in a bathroom.
Hey, I say it's a great, great dive bar when there's a pile of ice where you do your business.
Yes, I like that. That and Marco Polo. That's how you know a good dive bar. That's right. However, some people are going to be confused about which bathroom to use. And in fact, the Supreme Court has a ruling on a case like that. Up next, we're going to tell you what the Supreme Court ruled today and how Joe Biden's DEI hire justice got called out by the other liberal justices. Give you all the sweet details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. So many media outlets have this story wrong just because they want the rage clickbait. Let me tell you what's actually happening, and I'm reading this right from the SCOTUS blog, which is really just what happened in the court. SCOTUS blog is very, here's what the court said, here's what the court did, here's what this person said, here's what that person said. It's one of the few apolitical sites left out there. So, the Supreme Court on Tuesday sent a challenge to Colorado's ban on conversion therapy, treatment intended to change a client's sexual orientation or gender identity for young people, back to the lower courts for them to apply a new standard. By a vote of 8-1. Okay, that might as well be unanimous because Ketanji Brown Jackson is not qualified for the job. When even Sotomayor and Kagan are voting with the conservatives in this one, you know it's a pure constitutional issue. By a vote of 8-1, the justices agreed with Kaylee Childs, the licensed counselor challenging the law that the ban discriminates against her based on the views that she expresses in her talk therapy. I don't know why conversion therapy has this stigma about it. It kind of makes it sound like we're going to beat you until you're not gay anymore or something. That's what the image that is conjured up. A lot of times people have severe psychological problems. Otherwise, they wouldn't want to cut off healthy parts of their anatomy. We can discuss other parts of this, but her thing was she talks to you. So you don't want her giving her opinion? That's a clear violation of the First Amendment. And that is exactly why this was an 8-1 decision. Now, what was more fascinating to me about this was the drama between the judges. I'm just going to read this from Fox News because it does this so well. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson drew fire from an unlikely colleague on Tuesday over her lone dissent in the Supreme Court's 8-1 decision, finding Colorado's ban on so-called conversion therapy for minors violates free speech rights. Fellow liberal Justice Elena Kagan criticized Jackson for failing to acknowledge case law that governs when speech can be regulated in the medical field, marking a rare public break between the two justices, typically aligned in cases centered on high-profile cultural issues. Quote, Justice Jackson's dissenting opinion claims that this is a small or even non-existent category, Kagan wrote in a footnote of a concurring opinion, which Justice Sonia Sotomayor joined. But even her own opinion, when listing laws supposedly put at risk today, offers quite a few examples. So you're saying there's no examples, and this is a small thing, we shouldn't even bother with it, but you, in your own dissent, list a ton of examples? She is not qualified for this job. She has never been qualified for this job. Kagan said Jackson's view rests on reimagining and in that way collapsing a well-settled distinction between viewpoint-based and other content-based speech restrictions, which is basically, lady, you don't know what you're talking about, and you're making us look bad as liberals. Because Kagan was appointed by Obama, clearly not a right-leaning judge. She's calling out Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, who has no idea what the hell she's talking about. No clue at all. We know why Joe Biden picked her. We don't need to cover that ground again, but he clearly didn't pick her for her judicial, scholarly works because she doesn't have any. What she wrote and what she writes every time is just, this makes me mad. I don't like it. And she disproves herself more often than not. She is not qualified for this job. She never was qualified for this job. And that's unfortunate because when you have unanimous decisions, they happen so infrequently. That actually speaks a lot to the volumes of a case. When we come back, my friends, your chance to win fantabulous prizes. And Turd Ferguson just signed a slew of bills to protect illegal aliens, but put you at risk. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, why the No Kings protests are just bad group therapy, and more fraud revealed, this time in King County. But before we get to any of that, my friends, now is your chance to win $2,000 in cold, hard cash. That's right, my friends. Today, we are having our Text to Win giveaway so that KVI can help you pay your bills. All you have to do is when I give you the word, text it to the number I give you. And then you will be entered for a chance to win $2,000 cash. Today's word is claim. As in, you can claim your prize if you win by following the rules. Text the word claim, C-L-A-I-M, to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757, and hopefully you'll be able to claim your prize if you are chosen as our winner. Once again, you have only until 4:30 Pacific time to do that. You don't have the entire hour. So make sure you text the word claim, C-L-A-I-M, to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Well, Turd Ferguson seems like he's just on a signing binge of everything around here today. So, Governor Bob Ferguson.
Yeah, it's not my name.
All right, Turd Ferguson
wrote on his social media accounts, "We are not helpless in the face of what's going on with ICE and the terrorizing of communities across our state." He wrote, "Yesterday, I signed 3 bills to protect the rights of immigrants in Washington." Okay, he means illegal aliens in Washington. Let's be clear about that for a second. 1, ensuring that workers receive notice when federal immigration authorities plan to conduct workplace inspections. Okay. So basically what you're saying is that illegal immigrants should be given the heads up by whoever's employing them that the feds are coming so they can skedaddle. Is that what it is? Mm-hmm. Okay. Just making sure. Next, that information from automated license plate reading systems is safeguarded. Oh, I see. I understand what's happening here. You don't want the data from the cameras being given to ICE because then they might be able to look up your license plate because the driver's licenses are issued to illegals, because the car registrations are issued to illegals, and then you have that information. Or when an illegal commits a crime, because we don't have enough police officers, that they are arrested by local authorities for the crime they committed. Hey, wait a second. I just realized something. They need to shut down more of these cameras. Kevin, you know which cameras they haven't shut down yet? They haven't shut down the speeding cameras, which ticket you, and they haven't shut down the toll cameras, which ticket you. We need to shut those down immediately because otherwise that information can go to ICE. We need to close it down. Shut it down right now. Oh, wait, they're not shutting down the revenue generating cameras? I see what's going on here. I understand. Now I fully understand. Lastly, that state employees have access to shared leave for immigration proceedings. So you came to this country illegally, and now you have immigration proceedings you need to go to. So now that you're working illegally, we got to make sure you get the day off from work. That's what it is? That's what this insanity is? Okay, Bob Ferguson clearly cares more about illegal aliens than the people who pay the taxes in his state. Shall we see who some of these nice young fellas are? You know, they just came here for a better life, right? Let's head on over to ICE Seattle. ICE arrested Gabriel Garcia Tapia, a 38-year-old citizen of Mexico who is unlawfully present in the United States. Earlier this month, he was convicted of child molestation and incest in Yakima Superior Court. This is definitely a person we need to give the heads up to when ICE is coming. This is definitely a person we don't want caught on those video cameras, right? How about this one? ICE arrested Daniel Lopez Mojica, 39, an illegal alien from Mexico, charged in Marion County, Oregon, with unlawful use of a weapon and menacing. He also faces federal charges for illegally re-entering the U.S., which is a felony after you've been deported. ICE arrested him inside the county courthouse. Yes, he should definitely get to stay, right? Or how about this one here? Tren de Aragua member who was wanted for murder in Colombia was arrested together with federal partners Angel Emmanuel Izarra Martinez, a criminal illegal alien, and Tren de Aragua, a terrorist criminal gang member from Venezuela, with an active arrest warrant in Colombia for homicide, firearms trafficking, narcotics trafficking. His U.S. criminal history includes an arrest in New York for forgery, driving without a license, and DUI, because none of that's ever been a problem here before, right? He also has foreign arrest warrants on charges of cocaine and cannabis, criminal organization, torture and barbarous acts, and injury causing death, manslaughter, and murder. This is who Turd Ferguson wants to keep here in our state. This is who he's protecting. Now, mind you, one city council member is facing a ton of backlash for wanting to turn on the cameras before the World Cup because, they might be helpful for actually, stopping crime and finding out people who shouldn't be in this country who are here for the World Cup. Maybe finding a terrorist or two, right? So according to Center Square, the chairman of the Seattle City Council's Public Safety Committee broke ranks with the mayor on Tuesday, urging that surveillance cameras be turned on before the FIFA World Cup games are played this summer. Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson announced March 19th and 26th that surveillance cameras by Lumen Field would be installed as planned but wouldn't be turned on unless there was a credible threat to public safety. She had concerns about cameras helping ICE enforcement efforts. You know what I should do? I should send a request for comment to Katie Wilson's office and say, when will you be turning off all the speeding cameras and the toll cameras because they are a threat to our illegal alien population? Oh, I have to phrase it right. Our non-documented neighbor, not undocumented neighbor population. Bob Kettle, a former senior naval intelligence officer, said the cameras need to be turned on in support of the World Cup. One little problem. What happens when you turn something on when it hasn't been on in a while? You find out you have tech problems, right? He says, my question regarding credible threat warnings is how do you define a credible threat warning? It's not the best practice to have the system and just leave it turned off. Wilson didn't define what she would view as a credible threat in her announcement on March 19th. Yeah, what do you mean by a credible threat? She said if a credible threat did occur, the cameras would be turned on and turned off again when the threat was over. What a moron. What, you think it just gets wrapped up in a 90-minute movie or something like that? Kettle, who was speaking at a meeting of the Public Safety Committee, said there aren't always credible threat warnings before a major incident, citing as examples the September 11 terrorist attacks or the bombing at the Summer Olympics in Atlanta of 1996. He said it should be noted, too, that we're in a heightened threat environment, especially because of the Iran war, which he's right about. He said it's important the issues be resolved before the first World Cup game is played on June 15th. He's 100% right. 100% right, but we're not going to do that, right? Instead, we're going to follow this really bad policy that we all know is a really bad policy. For example, and this came from Keith Swank's office, the Pierce County Sheriff. They wrote the following. The Pierce County Sheriff's Office announces the immediate deactivation of its automated license plate reader system, commonly known as flock cameras, in response to the recent signing of the Driver Privacy Act by Governor Turd Ferguson. Sorry, I added the turd there. The legislation passed by the Washington State Legislature earlier this month establishes strict new regulations governing the use of ALPR technology by law enforcement agencies. Among its provisions, the law prohibits the use of license plate readers in proximity to community locations, including hospitals, schools, and other protected areas. Violations of these restrictions carry significant legal consequences, including classification as a gross misdemeanor for individual officers. At this time, there's no available technology or operational capability that allows the Sheriff's Office to ensure that the ALPR cameras can reliably differentiate between restricted and permitted locations in real time. As a result, continued use of the system would place deputies at risk of unintentionally violating state law. Do you know how this camera works? I was in a car which had one time when I did a ride along with the Seattle Police Department. As you drive along, the thing notifies you if there's a license plate of a stolen vehicle. Lots of stolen vehicles are recovered because of this. Now, you know what the left loves to say about stolen cars, the activist crazies? They love to say, well, the majority of stolen vehicles are recovered. So I don't know why you're so mad about the stolen vehicle. You just lose it for a little while. Just lose it for a little bit. It comes back smelling like fentanyl. It's great. It's fantastic. You just have to clean the thing out, make sure all the parts are there.
That's what I was going to say is I've known several people who have had their cars stolen, mopeds stolen, and when they finally find them, they are really interesting as what damage has been done and what is crammed in there. Just awful stories.
I had a friend of mine who got his car back, thought it was perfectly fine, and he couldn't figure out why he was getting sick all the time. Turns out the fentanyl was in the fabric of the car and the thing had to be totaled. That was that. I had another friend, and he told me he actually works in law enforcement. He said to me the car got stolen one time, and he said he knew enough to ask the question. So when they call you and they say, we found your car, you say, what condition is it in? Is it drivable? Because then it's just like, nope, I never got that call, never found the car. Because if it's not drivable, how much damage has been done to this thing where you just go, no way, just not. That's how bad it could be. You know, I had a friend, he left his car running on auto start. Apparently his car didn't know he had a little flaw where you didn't need the fob in the vehicle after you did that. And the person drove away from in front of his house. He found it a few blocks later and luckily it was okay. But yeah, this is a real problem. And now you're going to have a harder time getting these suckers back because they're turning off the cameras. So now the entire argument, which was a dumb one to begin with, completely goes out the window. Crazy stuff. So I'm driving around with this police officer, and you see how the camera works. That's scanning license plates, taking pictures of these license plates. Well, now Sheriff Keith Swank informs the community this decision was not made lightly. The loss of this tool is a significant setback for public safety in our community. ALPR technology has been instrumental in locating missing persons, including silver alert cases, identifying stolen vehicles, apprehending dangerous offenders. Without it, our ability to respond quickly and effectively is diminished. So basically what you're saying is that Turd Ferguson didn't consider, or anybody who had anything to do with this legislation, consider the fact that the technology does not exist to hide that stuff and just want the things shut off as a virtue signal. Is this going to be like when they banned police pursuits? And now the number of stolen cars goes up. The number of people evading pursuit goes up. Kind of sounds like it is. Sheriff Swank emphasizes the timing and scope of the legislation has created operational challenges that leave the office with no viable path forward for continued use of the cameras under current conditions. This is how you have more crime. By dumb things like this that you did to virtue signal. Yeah, let's just defund the police. This is what it is again. They didn't get their way the first time, so now they're trying it again. There was a great moment yesterday when actually the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, called out the entire press corps for not reporting accurately on the people who are killed by illegal aliens. So the most recent one was tragically a college student named Sheridan Gorman, who was in Chicago, shot and killed by an illegal alien from Venezuela who should never have been in this country, who had multiple problems before this. And yet most of the media completely refuses to even cover this. Instead, they cover the camera stuff. They will not cover a story like this, and she called him out in real time.
Just last week, Sheridan Gorman, a young woman in Chicago, was shot and killed on the street walking with her friends outside of her university by an illegal alien from Venezuela who had no right to be here in the first place. And it's despicable that Democrats are currently defunding the department that's responsible for removing illegal aliens like that. And I would also add it's despicable that the lack of coverage of this young woman's case, of her life, and the way that it was tragically cut short. I saw a survey over the weekend that I'd like to bring to all of your attention. This is the media coverage of the case of Sheridan Gorman. You have ABC News has spent 1 minute and 19 seconds between 2 days when this case was first alerted. You have CBS 2 minutes and 1 second. You have NBC 23 seconds spent on the life of a young, beautiful American woman whose life was taken short by an illegal alien who should have never been here in the first place, when we are in the middle of a battle on Capitol Hill with a major political party, the Democrat Party, who wants to defund the agency that is responsible for protecting Americans. I think her life was worth more than 23 seconds on cable television, and I think the people in this room have a responsibility to report on cases like this, because it just exemplifies why the president believes so strongly in deporting illegal aliens from our communities.
She's 100% right. She's 100% right. Some of you had questions like this one from the 206. Ari, I thought it was against the law for employers to hire anyone here illegally. Exactly, and they're never going to be busted for it because of the new legislation that was just signed. This one here from the 360. How is that not blatant abetting? Which it is. It actually is. I don't know how any of this stuff survives court challenges, but somebody's got to get the resources to actually do the court challenges. Now, mind you, from the other side of the coin, from the 425, don't the cameras violate the Fourth Amendment? I don't consent to being recorded. Okay, fair discussion to have, 425. You're not wrong. Fair discussion to have, but that's not the discussion that's being had. That's not the one that's being had. The one is, how can we make sure the illegal aliens are not apprehended, which is beyond crazy. Turd Ferguson doesn't care about you. Turd Ferguson cares about the illegal aliens.
Yeah, well, who gives a damn?
Well, we do. Because unfortunately, you get more cases of young people getting killed by illegal aliens who never should have been in this country to begin with. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line and take a call from Sandy from Renton. Sandy, what's going on? Hello, Sandy.
Hello.
Hey, what's up?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I'm curious. I'm seeing a video that's taking place now in Israel that the people there are protesting Palestinians that are guilty of killing Israelites. And it says police disperse protesters that are protesting against the law allowing Palestinians guilty of killing Israelis to be hanged. And they're protesting in the street.
Okay. All right. I know what we're talking about. Hang on. Took me a second there, Sandy. I know what we're talking about. Okay. A new law was passed in Israel, which basically they didn't have the death penalty for terrorists. In fact, they didn't have the death penalty for a lot of people in Israel right now. They did not have the death penalty for terrorists. The problem is to make some people on the left happy, they said, and anybody who does any violence in the territories. Now, that's giving in to a talking point that apparently these settlers are committing violence and should be punished also. So there's a fight about whether this thing should include the settlers, which a lot of that violence is actually traced back to the terrorists, not the settlers themselves. But that's what the protests are going over right now. Then on the other side, you have the people who live there, who may not be very friendly to the government, who may be on the other side of this discussion, who are mad that terrorists are now eligible for the death penalty. Then you have another group of people that say the death penalty isn't a religious thing and they should be protested as well. I don't know what video you're looking at, but it's probably one of those three groups that's protesting right now.
Yeah, it looks like younger people, and the police are hosing them down and chasing them down the street.
What channel are you watching? What channel are you watching right now, Sandy?
It's Forbes on YouTube.
Yeah, right there. Forbes is not exactly the most pro anything that I believe in outlet, so I'm curious about it, but I will definitely check it out after the show today. If you want to send me a link, you can do so, ari@kvi.com. That's ari@kvi.com. Sandy, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Up next, my friends, the No Kings protests, they're just really bad group therapy. We're going to tell you exactly why when we come back, because what did these guys actually accomplish? You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Good news, everybody. The podcasts are back up and running. So make sure you subscribe to the Ari Hoffman Show on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. Remember, while you're there, to rate and share so that way your friends can see how much you enjoy it and subscribe as well. Okay, public service announcement. There is this video that 5 or 6 of you have sent to me. Here's the title of the video. FBI and ICE raid Seattle councilman's office. 67 dirty cops, 94 million laundering network exposed. It's not true. It's fake. It's clickbait. A lot of you have sent this to me. We know where all the Seattle City Council members are. This did not happen. I don't know where they're dragging this out of, but a whole bunch of you sent this to me today. It is not true. It is not accurate. Somebody made this up. I'm not going to do a deep dive into it, but it is completely untrue. There is no truth to this whatsoever. What there is truth to is what the lunatics were chanting at some of the protests over the weekend. Give a listen.
Until we have done everything in our power to bring the United States to its knees, let us not lose sight of the enemy. For every U.S. military base that crumbles, and for every U.S. soldier who returns home in a casket, we cheer.
I'm sorry, what'd that dude just say? So they want dead American soldiers? They want American bases blown up? Who is funding this insanity? Who's marching in this insanity? Latest report for us here from Fox.
Let's talk about the worldwide paid protest pipeline. Who's funding it and why? Because no matter the cause, anti-ICE, pro-Palestine, pro-Iran, you'll see different signs, but it's the same script. And it's the same networks, the same organizers, the same graphics, the same font. Fox News Digital has been digging into this, following the money, and a lot of it leads back to one man. We've told you about him in the past. Tech tycoon, American-born, Neville Roy Singham, who lives in Shanghai. Now, he allegedly poured millions into these networks to push an overtly pro-Chinese Communist Party interest. So how does it work? And here's what Fox News Digital's Azra Amani has uncovered. After analyzing hundreds of transactions from 2017 to 2025, it starts at the top with Neville Roy Singham. He has allegedly funneled around $278 million through shell companies that starts with a core 6. It's companies like Code Pink, the People's Forum. Again, we've talked about this with you in the past. You should get to know these because they're the emblems, the logos that you will see on all the signs at these protests. But from those core 6, they then distribute it out in like a third concentric circle to 52 secondary organizations all across different regions. And then again, globally, it's fractured up again into 11 downstream groups. Now you're talking about nonprofits all across the world. That result in the end result, 2,000 activist groups are funded by this one man, Neville Roy Singham. And what's it for? What is the message that he's pushing? What information is he laundering through these groups? Well, let's remind you of what these groups say. There's Code Pink. On the surface, it's a feminist grassroots organization, co-founded, by the way, by Singham's wife, Jody Evans. And they do things like the Day of Action after the Soleimani strike. They did a Free Palestine march. And then there's the People's Forum. And again, their mission, as they say, is to build unity across the line of division at home and abroad. Sounds benign, right? But what do? Well, they focus on anti-imperialism, anti-capitalism. They did the Times Square rally the day after October 7th. They protest Maduro's capture. This is the feel-good, benign message that is actually in play when it comes to the People's Forum. And again, the idea, the information laundered, points back to 2017. You see, what happened in 2017 is Singham and the Code Pink co-founder, Evans, got married. And they got married in Jamaica. So a wedding started this, but not exactly the kind of wedding that you would expect, not the kind of gift, not the place you would expect the start of a revolution. But according to this report, the generations, our generation's Maoist, People's War, are the ones that caught the bouquet because that's where this idea blossomed. See, in 1934, Mao Zedong of Chinese Communist Party set forth his doctrine. His doctrine was decentralized networks. Ideological indoctrination, civil institutions. What happened? Well, basically, a color revolution, a cultural revolution, a long-term struggle that's changed China and for much of the globe. What's happening today with Singham? Same exact playbook. Disparate activist groups, tax-exempt nonprofits, and the thing is, it's all, again, a long-term cultural revolution, a battle for your mind. This is real, happening, cognitive warfare.
Yes, it is. And unfortunately, they're getting a whole bunch of useful idiots and people with severe mental problems. And a whole bunch of people reliving their lives from the 1960s. Why is it a whole bunch of elderly white people at these things?
It seems like there's a lack of diversity here today, that it's mostly people who look like you and I, and I just think it
is not for black people, for people of color to get out on the street. They're at risk when they do that. If anybody's going to get arrested here, it's going to be a black person. It is not safe for them, and they don't need to participate. We need to walk in their name.
Okay, these people have lost their minds. They're absolutely crazy. And in fact, they might actually be clinically crazy. There was a great op-ed in the Wall Street Journal by Jonathan Alpert, who's a psychotherapist practicing in New York and Washington, and author of Therapy Nation, which is a book that's coming out in May. He wrote about the No Kings lunatics. At their core, the rallies resemble bad group therapy, gatherings that offer validation, solidarity, and emotional release. They feel good in the moment. Participants vent, find reinforcement among like-minded people, and leave feeling heard and aligned. The experience can seem productive, even clarifying. But like bad group therapy, it stops at validation. The feelings are processed but not challenged, reinforced but not examined. There is relief but little resolution. And the underlying problems remain. It offers the feeling of progress without the substance of it. The composition of these rallies help explain part of their dynamic. According to a survey conducted at the No Kings rally in the District of Columbia, attendees skew heavily toward highly educated, left-leaning white women in their 40s. This demographic stands at the forefront of the broader shift toward therapeutic language, in which emotional experience is elevated, validated, and often treated as some kind of truth in itself. Many learn about the rallies through social networks, where political views and identity are intertwined. That helps explain why disagreement in these settings can feel less like a difference of opinion and more like a breach of reality. That is part of their appeal. These gatherings offer not only political expression, but psychological alignment, a sense of being among others who see the world the same way. They don't want anything busting a hole in their echo chamber. They want their narrative. They want to be surrounded by like-minded people, and they don't want any opposition at all. It's why sometimes they feel like they're living on a different planet. Sometimes you see these people and go, how do you believe what you believe? Because they close themselves off from anything that disagrees with them, anything that punctures their belief system. Why were people ripping down the posters after October 7th of the hostages? Because they didn't want to acknowledge that the people they're supporting, the Hamas terrorists, are actually bad. Why is it? They have this such warped reality. This is why. And also, do you see the No Kings protests growing? I mean, they're big, don't get me wrong, but it seems like it's always the same people, the same amount of people showing up. Are they changing anybody's minds? Let me know what you think. Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. And speaking of calls, when we come back, we'll take some of your calls and some of your texts. And also, more fraud has been revealed, this time in our very own King County. We'll tell you about the billions of dollars they managed to lose. When we come back, you're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Good news, my friends. The podcasts are working again on both Apple and Spotify. I don't know if it was a shadow ban. I don't know if it was tech issues, but magically they are working again. So yes, please subscribe to the Ari Hoffman Show on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. A lot of discussion on the text line about one of our previous segments about the cameras, because one of the people who texted in earlier was saying, well, I don't give up my Fourth Amendment right by being outside, so you have no right to film me. Okay, you don't have an expectation of privacy when you go out in public. That's how I am able to film all the lunatic activists anytime I'm out at a protest. You give up all expectation of privacy when you are in the public square. I said it was a discussion, guys. I said it's a discussion to have. I didn't say I agreed with it, but a whole bunch of people on the text line are like, Ari, don't you know this? Of course we know this. I know the law because I have to use the law pretty frequently. Otherwise, all of those Hamasniks and Antifa types would be suing me every 5 minutes for putting up the videos of them doing dumb things on the internet, and I got enough people suing me as it is.
I was going to say, it doesn't stop them from trying.
Oh, no. They try. They try. But this is why I win. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Shane in Tacoma. Shane, what's going on?
Hi, Ari. I stand with Israel about the the war that we fighting against the mullah regime in Iran, but I have a problem with the concerns about the NATO partnership, because I've just noticed how when President Trump needed to rely on our supposedly NATO allies, great allies, Great Britain, Spain, Poland, Italy, etc., France, they wouldn't share the airspace with us. They wouldn't share bases. I just think that we should just pull the plug and withdraw from NATO, pull out of the NATO, and guard our hemisphere, like according to the Monroe Doctrine, and let Europe, including the Ukraine, fend for themselves. I mean, no more money. With $40 trillion in the red, we have to guard ourselves, fend for ourselves, build our own security. The United States and Canada, I guess, or maybe Greenland, but not and Israel, but not Europe, not Ukraine, not ungrateful Britain.
Yeah,
not
so
the Germans.
Shane, by the way, I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but before we do the nuclear option, which is completely withdraw from NATO, you know what I would say instead? Okay, when we get the Iranian oil, you have to buy it through us. So that means, here's the thing, like for example, they were still buying their oil from Russia while they were saying Russia's so bad because of that Ukraine war. They could have been buying it from many other places, but they were still buying it from Russia. And then they say, hey, America, can you come protect us from Russia? And Joe Biden was too old and doddering to go, well, you guys are still paying them for their oil. So if you become our customers instead of their customers, then we will come help you with Ukraine. Otherwise, you are funding this against us, and there is no way out of it. I would also say, if you guys don't open the Strait of Hormuz and help us do that, then guess what? When we get all the oil from Iran, you guys have to pay an extra fee to help us pay back for how much it cost for us to go fight this war in the first place. Then, and only then, if they refuse to do all that, then I would say we should have the discussion about pulling out of NATO. But Shane, I completely hear where you're coming from.
Yeah, and I think the president actually said it this morning. He said, we're gonna let the Europeans get their own oil or something to the effect of it. So he's already said that in public, but basically what you're saying. But the ultimatum would be that if they are not willing to do it, then double down and just. And I think that Article 2 of the Constitution gives them a full purview of it, regardless of some 2024 law that the state stipulated. You need 2/3 of the Senate vote to pull out of NATO. It's unconstitutional, and according to Article 2 of the Constitution, Trump can pull out of NATO unilaterally, and the Congress can take him to the Supreme Court. I mean, and finally, resort, and they probably win.
I got to check out a lot of this. I got to check out the case law behind it. I got to check out a few things about this. I don't disagree with you, but I think before you do the nuclear option of pulling out of NATO, you just say, hey, can we make money off these guys first? I think because if you pull out of NATO, I don't think they're ever going to actually buy our oil, and I think they'll keep buying it from Russia and then say, why didn't you help us? Good call, Shane. Appreciate the conversation. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. So yesterday we were talking about all this fraud that the DCYF, the Department of Children, Youth, and Family Services, admits to. This comes after a bombshell report from the Seattle Times talking about how the King County Department of Community and Human Services, the county's largest agency, for years has ignored red flags, dismissed warnings, and continued paying contractors even when they failed to show proof of work or spending. So you're talking about billions of dollars, literally billions of dollars, and they did nothing about it at all. Remember how yesterday I said that if the Department of Children, Youth, and Family Services has already admitted to a new $40 million they don't know about, it's overpayments, on top of the over $400 million that was overpayments, on top of the other $2 million that was overpayments. You're already starting to get close to $600 million. Now you look at all the fraud in King County where you're talking billions of dollars. Remember when I said yesterday that I think the fraud is bigger here than in Minneapolis, than in Minnesota? Do you think I'm right? Because the more and more we find out about this, the more and more they admit to. You know, if they're admitting to this much, there's a lot more out there that they're not admitting to. I have the ultimate barometer test. Tell me what you guys think of my test. I reached out to the Washington State Auditor. I reached out to the office, and I said, I would love to have you on the show to do a discussion about your press release, about the $37 million you admit was overpayments. Would you be happy to come? Would you come on my show? It was very nice, very polite. We've never had the state auditor on before. We've never bashed the state auditor. And that's rare, by the way. Our bingo card is filled up with people we bashed in the office, in all the different statewide offices. Never done that. Had no reason to. But here's how you know if this is a barometer or not. If they won't come on the show, they're afraid of getting the hard questions. If they won't come on the show, they know they're going to have to lie to my questions with their answers. And that says all you need to know. Why won't they come on the show? We put in the request this morning. Let's give them a little bit of time. I think 24 hours is a nice amount of time to say yes, no, maybe so, let me get back to you, any of that. And then they wonder why I want a press pass so bad. Because unfortunately, when they don't get back to you, that's the end of the road for a lot of us. We have to wait till they resurface somewhere down the road, and then maybe we get a question in. But the problem is when they hide from the media, like what they're doing right now, you don't get the answers to your questions. So, for example, you know the other questions we sent out when we found out all this fraud? Hey, Nick Brown, you're the Attorney General. When are you going to be investigating all this? Oh, right. We get crickets on that one, too. Shouldn't surprise anybody at all. What is surprising to me is how wrong our friends on the right are getting a story about a basketball player. Up next, we're going to tell you what the controversy is all about and why I disagree with pretty much everybody on the right about this. And then you can call me and fight with me about it. We'll tell you what's going on next. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. A couple disclaimers before this story. Is the NBA woke? Yes. Do they go overboard with the woke nonsense? Yes. Do I like the current leadership of the NBA and what it stands for? No. Okay, we're all clear on this? Good.
What are you doing? You're going to ruin our chances of getting the Sonics back. What are you doing?
No much worse than Bob Ferguson's going to. So I think I'm okay right now. All right. Chicago Bulls announced on Monday that it would waive guard Jaden Ivey due to conduct detrimental to the team. This comes after Ivey posted a series of videos to social media in which he called the league's celebration of Pride Month unrighteous, claiming he's born again and he's been saved by Jesus Christ. They proclaim Pride Month in the NBA. They show it to the world. They say, come join us for Pride Month to celebrate unrighteousness. They proclaim it. They proclaim it on the billboards. They proclaim it on the streets. Unrighteousness. Okay. So normally you'd say, Ari, you don't like the pride stuff. Why aren't you on his side with this? Okay. Number one, NBA, Chicago Bulls, private company, can do what they want. Now, mind you, I do have a problem with the fact that they won't fire a guy who beats up his wife or rapes somebody or any of that from all these other teams, but you're firing the guy for this? But are they actually firing the guy for this? What I have learned in my years is if you are a successful comedian, you can say whatever the hell you want. If you are a good basketball player, you can say whatever the hell you want. If you cause problems and you are mediocre, then odds are you're going to be in trouble. Let's be real about this. Did I think Gina Carano should have gotten fired from The Mandalorian? No. Did I think her comments were anti-Semitic? Absolutely not. But she had a role in like 3 episodes of The Mandalorian, so it was a real quick, bye, see ya. So this guy here, he's on the injured list. He's been on the injured list, and he's out for the rest of the season. In addition to that, his contract was up at the end of this season. So the Chicago Bulls go, now we've got a PR problem with the LGBTQIA community because the dude who's not even playing basketball is mouthing off on social media. Now we got an issue. Do I take issue with the topics chosen that they chose to fire him over? Of course. But for everybody to go, oh my God, did any of you look up his contract? Did any of you? One Google search is all it took. One. Any of you look up his stats? One. That's what it took. If you're good, you can get away with anything. If you're mediocre, you can't. And at the end of the day, the NBA is a private business. Up next, it seems like we have our own private war going with Iran, but is it wrapping up? No thanks to our European allies. Tell you all about it. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show's final hour free for all. Your calls, your texts, your thoughts, your stories, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, friend Jonathan Cho was arrested by police in Las Vegas, and we don't really know what the police were thinking. We'll give you all the details on that. But before we get to any of that, we go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Gerald in Federal Way. Gerald, what's going on?
Yeah, howdy. I love your idea on charging our uncooperative allies for oil. I think that idea is right up there with adding ICE agents to supplement the TSA. But just like the Fergie on Star Trek, we need to make a profit.
Very good. I like the reference. I like all the nerds are giggling right now. I like that. Yes. Which rule of acquisition would that be? Yes.
Yeah. Mainly I call just to cheer you up to let you know that Democrats won't fix the fraud, but they will fix the elections.
Oh, very good. Very good. So let me ask you this, Gerald, because I love polling people on their different opinions. Do you think the reason they won't fix the fraud here in Washington is because they're on the take? Because their voters, or excuse me, their supporters, constituents, donors are on the take, or both?
On the take, it's profitable, and they're protecting their non-value-added jobs.
There you go. Could also be the third one, that how dare you imply that somebody who's a person of color might be committing fraud. It might make you a racist. Got to throw that one in the mix, too. Gerald, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. 12th Man for Life texted on over here on our previous story about the NBA doing what it did and the Chicago Bulls doing what it did by getting rid of a player for his comments. Ari, well said on the private business part. That's why if people don't like a business's political stance on something, don't give them any money. Money runs everything, which actually is interesting to me. So people are excited about the Sonics coming back, right? The possibility of the Sonics coming back. But you still have to deal with the NBA, and you still have all this other stuff. I mean, I went the other night on, what was it, Women's Night at the Kraken, and let me just say I was one of the few non-lesbians in the crowd. Okay. Do I care? No, I was there to watch a hockey game. I can ignore this kind of stuff and go to but the Kraken is a pretty woke team, guys. I don't hear a lot of complaints about them. Didn't Jerry Bruckheimer or somebody used to own part of the Kraken? Something like that. Kind of surprised by that. I thought he was a conservative. Anyway, this is what the league stuff does. This is what they do. Switching gears back to the Middle East for a second, Wall Street seems to think that the war's going to be over pretty soon. U.S. stock investors finally got what they've been waiting for, an apparent two-sided de-escalation of the Iran war, according to Business Insider. All three major indexes ripped more than 2% higher on comments from the U.S. and Iranian presidents signaling an end is in sight. Why do they think an end is in sight? I will tell you why. Whoever President Trump is negotiating with, and I don't think it's the gay Ayatollah. I don't think it's the cardboard cutout of the Ayatollah. That is not who I think he is negotiating with. I don't think that's what it was. I don't think it's the maps at all. I don't think it's any of that. I don't think it's the Ayatollah for sure.
Maybe they weren't gay enough.
No, it wasn't. I don't think that's what it was. But whoever he's negotiating with, Trump said just the other day, he threatened that the U.S. will bomb their power plants, their oil wells, and their main oil production facility over at Karg Island. And the Iranians are thinking to themselves, how much longer can we survive? Because if they take out the oil production, we have no more money left. And then what happens is the U.S. does what the U.S. does best, nation rebuilding. So they come on in and they say to a partner like Saudi Arabia, hey, guys, you want to make some oil over here and we'll go into business together? And then Iran has nothing left to rebuild with. Nothing at all. Trump is saying he's going to do that if they don't reopen the Strait of Hormuz. And wouldn't you know that today, all of a sudden, more ships were going through the Strait of Hormuz. This is what President Trump does. Peace through strength. There were also two other reports. One, that the Pentagon was weighing a ground operation, and that President Trump was weighing a ground operation. President Trump does not bluff. He says, this is what I'm going to do if you don't do what I want you to do, and then he does it. Right now, what are the objectives? Because now that we are 100% winning the war and every lie that the Democrats have told about the war has been thoroughly debunked, the left is coming up with all new stuff. What are the actual goals? What are the actual agenda? You don't have one. You don't have a plan. You never had a plan. You know who's the worst about this? Adam Smith. Democrat Adam Smith, representative from right here in Washington. So he's running against Shama Sawant. Ugh. I thought we were done with her when she quit the Seattle City Council. So he's trying to out-left her. He's trying to outflank her. And he keeps putting up these dumb posts of, we need to end this war right now. The world is not safer. You think the world without the Ayatollah isn't safer? You think Iran not having ballistic missiles isn't safer? You don't think that all this isn't safer? Yeah, we are doing better. But the new lie coming out of the left is, we don't know what the plan is. Trump, he's just a madman. We don't know what the plan actually is. Marco Rubio has been very clear about the plan multiple times. President Trump has been very clear about the plan multiple times. Here's your Secretary of State doing it yet again for all the people in the back of the room who are having trouble hearing.
Many Americans are asking, why did the United States have to attack Iran now? Well, let me explain. Iran wants to have nuclear weapons. Of that, there is zero doubt. If what they truly wanted, which is what they claim, is nuclear energy, well, they could have nuclear energy like all the other countries in the world have it. And that is, you import the fuel and you build reactors above ground. That's not what Iran has done. They build their reactors and their facilities deep in mountains, away from the public glare. And they want to enrich that material. The same equipment that they could use to enrich material for energy, they could use to quickly enrich it to weapons grade. So it is clear that they've been offered every opportunity to have a nuclear program that allows them to have energy, not weapons, and every single time they have turned it down. But why the attack now? Well, what was Iran trying to do? Iran was trying to build a conventional shield, in essence, have so many missiles, have so many drones that no one could attack them, and they were well on their way. We were on the verge of an Iran that had so many missiles and so many drones that no one could do anything about their nuclear weapons program in the future. That was an intolerable risk. Under no circumstances can a country run by radical Shia clerics with an apocalyptic vision of the future ever possess nuclear weapons. And under no circumstances can they be allowed to hide and protect that program and their ambitions behind a shield of missiles and drones that no one can do anything about. This was our last best chance to eliminate that conventional threat, that conventional shield that they were trying to build, and the president made the right decision to wipe it out now. That is the goal of this operation, to destroy their conventional missiles and their drone program so they can't hide behind it and finally have to deal with the world seriously about never, ever having nuclear weapons.
Oh my God, that's the first time I ever heard any of this, says nobody ever. He literally said the same thing over the weekend.
This operation, okay, and that's what this is about very specific objectives. The president laid them out on the first night of the operation. I'll repeat them to you now because I hear a lot of talk about we don't know what the clear objectives are. Here they are. You should write them down. Number one, the destruction of their Air Force. Number two, the destruction of their Navy. Number three, the severe diminishing of their missile launching capability. And number four, the destruction of their factories so they can't make more missiles and more drones to threaten us in the future. All of this so that they can never hide behind it to acquire a nuclear weapon. That was our objective from the beginning. That remains our objective now. We are on pace and, in fact, ahead of schedule on some of those things, and we are going to achieve those things in a number of weeks, not in a number of months.
Exactly. But this is the lie the left keeps saying. Why are we doing this? We don't know why we're doing this. By the way, to our European allies, man, I don't like Europeans at all. I just don't. I really, really don't. I'm so glad I was born in the United States of America, that I grew up in the United States of America, and that I live in the United States of America, just because that means I'm not European. I was crushed when I did one of those 23andMe things, and I found out there was a little bit of French in there, and I was so mad because I don't run from a fight. That is not what I do. But I think maybe the wine may come from there. maybe that's why I like the wine so much. Maybe that's what it is. President Trump put this on Truth Social. The country of France wouldn't let planes headed to Israel load up with military supplies fly over French territory. France has been very unhelpful with respect to the butcher of Iran, who has been successfully eliminated. The USA will remember President Donald J. Trump. Yeah. Let's remember who got these guys over there, who flew them over there. Weren't they the ones who were flying the Ayatollah back into Iran and out of Iran and wherever he needed to go in the 1970s? Yeah, France. They're always, Robin Williams put it best. Oh, yes, Americans, you come here, build Euro Disney. We won't go. Come help us. The Germans are coming, right? That was what Robin Williams used to say. He was 100% right. Why are we helping them with Ukraine? Why are we helping them with Russia? And yet when we need their help, how many billions of dollars have we pumped into that at this point? This one here, also from Donald Trump. All of those countries that can't get jet fuel because of the Strait of Hormuz, like the United Kingdom, which refused to get involved in the decapitation of Iran, I have a suggestion for you. Number one, buy from the U.S. We have plenty. Number two, build up some delayed courage. Go to the Strait and just take it. You'll have to start learning how to fight for yourself. The USA won't be there to help you anymore, just like you weren't there for us. Iran has been essentially decimated. The hard part is done. Go get your own oil. I don't know why we're doing this. We should just take control of the Strait of Hormuz, set it up like the Panama Canal, where we get all the money of anybody going through the Panama Canal. Then somebody like Jimmy Carter will come along next and just give it to somebody else, even though we did all the work to actually get the thing. Yeah, just turn it all over, and then we got to go invade Panama, right? This is Europeans. They don't want our help till they need our help. They didn't want to pay for their own national defense. They didn't want to pay for the defense of Ukraine. And now they won't help us, even though we saved them during World War II. We saved them in this Ukraine nonsense of Russia's full-on aggression. We saved them during the Cold War with NATO. Do you think we should pull out of the NATO alliance? Do you think we should do it? Give us a call or a text, 206-421-5757, 206-421-5757. This one from the 989. Ari, did you surrender immediately upon learning your part French? No, because it was only like a small little tiny thing. I got 75% Orthodox Jewish, and then I got the French part, and I was a little confused. I got Irish, too, which may account for all the stuff you see on the video stream on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and X and Rumble. That all used to be reddish. Maybe that's where that comes from with the Irish stuff, or maybe that's why I like Scotch so much and I like whiskey so much. Who knows? I'm throwing all these things out there. We're just going to keep offending everybody today. That's what we're going to do. Kevin's shaking his head at me. How many people do you want to offend today? I don't know. I'm in a mood today. I'm just mad about all this. I really, really am. Because we're fighting a war for their oil right now. It's not a war for our oil. It's a war for their oil. Now, mind you, we didn't go into them in there with the intention of the oil. We went in there because this guy who's chanting death to America and has all his crazy followers chanting death to America actually means it and wants to use the nuclear weapons on us. The number one state sponsor of terror. I can't believe we keep having this discussion. And what's fascinating is the left likes to portray like there's some kind of schism, some kind of divide. MAGA, they are all in on this. It's just the podcast first people and the left. They're the ones who are not in on this. Is President Trump losing support, which is why his poll numbers are cratering? Yes. But the people he's losing the support with are the independents who hopped on the bandwagon because Kamala Harris and Joe Biden were so bad, and the Democrats who said, you know what? I can't go along with this craziness anymore. I'm going to vote for Donald Trump because the world won't end and I'll have more money in my pocket. Now, you do have an economic problem. 1,000% you have an economic problem. And if President Trump doesn't fix the economic problem soon, we are going to get wiped out in the midterm elections. I promise you, that is what is going to happen. That has to be solved. Until that is solved, you have those problems. And mind you, the Democrats hate anything President Trump does. A federal judge today ordered construction on the White House ballroom project to stop, siding with a historic preservation group that argued the effort violated federal law. U.S. District Judge Richard Leon said the group is likely to succeed on the merits of its case, writing that no statute comes close to giving the president the authority he claims to have. The injunction temporarily stops work on the project, though the judge delayed enforcement for 14 days while the White House has time to appeal. Yeah, I love how everybody on the left are like, yes, we stopped the project. So what do you want to do instead? I noticed something interesting today is that they're talking about this secret military installation under the ballroom. No, you know what was under the East Wing to begin with? The bunker. The bunker's down there. and they haven't redone the bunker since, I don't know, the Cold War. So maybe it's time for it to get Wi-Fi. Maybe we should upgrade the bunker a little bit. Maybe it needs to be hardened against, EMPs and other threats that we have now that we didn't have during the Cold War. It's like the bomb shelter in my house. Yes, I have a bomb shelter in my house. The guy who owned the house before me was a Boeing engineer, had a bomb shelter in the house. I don't know why. But what was fascinating about the bomb shelter, it's not nuclear hardened. It's one of those conventional bomb shelters. And when we first moved into this house, this guy had a whole bunch of manuals, old Boeing manuals on missiles, Tomahawk missiles. He knew what was coming our way. So I think he was the guy who was developing them for Boeing or whatever it was. But the thing was not nuclear hardened. If there's a nuclear attack today, that thing ain't going to help me. Not at all. Conventional bombs, so if the Luftwaffe comes flying through Seattle, we'll be okay. We'll be fine. He built this house in the 1960s. He should have known better. Anywho, I will say is that maybe the bunker needs to be upgraded. Maybe just a smidgen needs to be upgraded while we're doing this whole thing. On top of that, you now have a ballroom on site. And if you're talking about saving money, Congress isn't spending any money on this. The taxpayer isn't spending money on this. Donald Trump raised the money for it. In addition, anytime the White House has some kind of state dinner or social function, they need to rent out somewhere else, which costs more money. There's this great video from the show Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee with Jerry Seinfeld, where he goes to pick up Barack Obama. That's his interview, Barack Obama. You know where they drive to? They drive around the White House driveway because Barack Obama can't go anywhere without an armed military escort. Basically, the president is a prisoner in the White House the years he's in office unless he's on an official trip. So if you want to make sure the president is safer at a lower cost, expand the White House campus. You think if Barack Obama started building a ballroom and a new bunker, the left would go crazy like this? No. They'd say, oh, yes, Barack Obama, what a wonderful idea. That was a brilliant idea. How'd you ever think of such a brilliant idea, Barack Obama? If it was Joe Biden, they would look the other way if it was Hunter Biden doing everything. If Hunter Biden said he wanted a new art gallery on the campus, they would have said, for your finger paintings, anything you want. But here, for a project, a government project that actually makes sense, they're saying, no. This thing is going to get overturned in appeal. You will have the ballroom at some point. The question is it going to be having the Trump logo on the side of it when it's done? I think not. But it is going to have the Trump logo on the side of it. They revealed the plans for the Trump Library. Okay, it's this big, tall, ornate, beautiful office tower in Florida. And what I find funny about it, not the archway that looks like Trump Tower in New York. Not that the thing looks like the Freedom Tower in New York. None of that. What I find funny about it, given the landscape and the skyline around it, it looks like a giant middle finger. It just looks like Trump is giving the middle finger to the entire world through his presidential library. I find that pretty entertaining. If you haven't seen the designs, Don Jr. posted them on social media. They're pretty entertaining. I'll share them over on my channels, Ari Hoffman Official on Facebook and Instagram, The Ha-Father over on Twitter. Up next, my friends, our friend Jonathan Cho was arrested in Las Vegas while covering the No Kings protest. We'll tell you what's going on and why he might have a pretty serious case against the Las Vegas Police Department. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder that our podcasts are up and running again. We don't know if it was shadow banning. We don't know what was going on. We don't know if it was tech issues. But they are up and running again on Spotify and over on Apple. Don't forget, you can always get the podcast on the KVI app, so you should download it right now. And also, you can get all our information, including articles by me, over at kvi.com. Over the weekend, our friend Jonathan Cho was covering the No Kings protest down there in Las Vegas. And this is what he wrote. Over the weekend, I was arrested for allegedly jaywalking on Las Vegas Boulevard. Yes, jaywalking. He said there was a chaotic scene involving demonstrators and counter-demonstrators. And because it's Jonathan Cho, there's video of it. According to Cho, tensions flared as activists confronted Christians and Turning Point Action volunteers. That's Turning Point USA's faith group. While filming from the sidewalk, he says he briefly stepped into the street to avoid colliding with others, at which point police officers intervened. Quote, that's when the cops moved in and claimed I was violating the law. Now, all of this is on video, by the way, so you can judge for yourself. Cho alleges he was taken into custody and held for more than 12 hours during that time. He says he was placed in a cell with individuals accused of more serious offenses and was required to change into jail-issued clothing. Then after that, he says, I spent more than 12 hours in jail with a DUI suspect, accused wife beater, and a homeless drug addict. They made me strip down and change into an orange jumpsuit. You usually don't do that for a temporary hold. That's something you do when you're shipping everybody off to the big boy jail. He now faces a misdemeanor charge, something he noted as a first in his life. Cho also claimed that 2 elderly men were arrested under similar circumstances. All 3 were released Sunday morning and are scheduled to appear before a judge next month. Despite the experience, Cho emphasized he remains broadly supportive of law enforcement, but said that the incident changed his perspective. Quote, I'm still pro-police, but for the first time in my life, I now know what over-policing and a power trip looks like. By the way, fair way to discuss this. Cho contends that enforcement of the law was uneven, claiming he has video evidence showing others walking in the roadway in front of the officers without being stopped. He said the inconsistent enforcement is so obvious and egregious, adding that he has reached out to the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department for comment, but is yet to receive a response. Because Jonathan Cho is our friend, I reached out to the Las Vegas Police Department, and they have not gotten back to me. What would be the reason for not getting back to me? I haven't done anything to piss them off. I don't have anything to do with Las Vegas. Cho says he plans to pursue the matter further, including filing complaints with Internal Affairs and the Citizen Review Board. He and his attorney also intend to request body camera footage of the official police reports related to the case. He says the burden is on the cops to show I was intentionally walking on the roadway and was warned numerous times not to do so. He says he wasn't. He told me, I am 100% in support of law enforcement. These men and women risk their lives every day on the job while trying to keep the community safe. But what happened in Las Vegas over the weekend was an example of one officer going on a power trip and misusing his authority. I experienced firsthand what over-policing looks like in a community and how it can erode public trust in law enforcement. While the charge is only a misdemeanor for jaywalking, my attorney and I plan to vigorously fight this in court. We also plan to file complaints against this officer and Las Vegas police. In the end, I hope Las Vegas police uses this as an opportunity to re-examine their enforcement procedures during protests. He said, I was there to cover a No Kings protest for Frontline's Turning Point USA. The entire day was chaotic. Right before my arrest, I was recording someone else being arrested. I stepped off the sidewalk for a few seconds to avoid bumping into someone in the crowd. As I was stepping back onto the sidewalk, a cop by the name of Officer Schmidt came charging at me and arrested me on the spot. He claims I was warned to stay on the sidewalk. In the midst of covering the demonstration, I did not hear him at all. Instead of giving me a warning, I was taken to jail in handcuffs. As of right now, authorities have not publicly responded to Cho's account of the events. We put in the request with the police department. The videos are online. You can judge for yourself. I will be sure to share them after the show. Speaking of Turning Point USA, by the way, the most egregious, bad faith clickbait headline came not from the Seattle Times, but from the Daily Mail. And you may have seen it trending on the interwebs. They're claiming all of a sudden that now the bullet that killed Charlie Kirk doesn't match. In fact, somebody sent me this article today from some random religious publication saying the bullet doesn't match, the bullet doesn't match. You may have seen this thing everywhere, but it's all because of the Daily Mail. That's not actually what the court documents say. Kevin's nodding like he's seen this thing a bunch of times.
Yeah, it came across my path as well, and it said something to the effect that his attorney says that the Doesn't match.
So Tyler Robinson, the guy who's the suspect, who they have dead to rights, is claiming the bullet doesn't match. Anybody here ever see the movie Primal Fear with Richard Gere? Richard Gere, Edward Norton. Edward Norton's first role, Richard Gere. Yes,
it was
no?
a long time ago if I did, but I wasn't a big fan of those 90s, like, legal thrillers.
Oh, I love that stuff. I love that stuff. In fact, I love it so much. In college, I don't know if they had the rights to it, but they did it as a stage show, and I played the Richard Gere role because I'm awesome and I had more hair back then. Anywho, so what happens is, in the trial, Richard Gere is this hotshot attorney who's objecting to everything. And at one point, Laura Linney, who's the other lawyer, says, next he's going to object to the murder weapon. And Richard Gere says, well, now that you mention it, and he starts objecting to the murder weapon. That's what defense attorneys do. So the Daily Mail probably saw this and said, all right, they're saying the bullet doesn't match. If we put that in a headline, everybody's going to click it. And they were right. But then again, if you read the actual filing, there's more than that. So if you dig deep into this thing, what they are saying is that the bullet was so mangled on impact, the federal investigators and all the other law enforcement are having trouble matching it to the gun. Because guess what? When a bullet is mangled because it impacts a person or bone or anything else it hits, sometimes you're going to have a hard time analyzing it. But that hasn't stopped everybody from going bonkers about this. So a little peek behind the curtain of my show. When my show is on social media, I can see where it is trending on X with regards to other shows. Every single day at around 5 o'clock when Tim Pool goes live, I see that his show knocks mine from the top spot. Happens every single day. And you always see the title and what they're talking about. Tim Pool put in the same headline, bullet doesn't match according to... Okay, it's clickbait. It's clickbait. As we have said many, many times, and this is what attorneys for the case have said, if 90% of the evidence gets thrown out in this case, they have more than enough to convict Tyler Robinson. In fact, now his furry boyfriend might be testifying against him for the prosecution. This thing looks to me, at this point, from everything I've seen, like an open and shut case. I don't see a second gunman on the grassy knoll, but people are keep going to go with this nonsense because they can.
I hate the industry that revolves around conspiracy theories because it's endless. As long as you can come up with something that fits within some of the guidelines of what is going on, it will catch fire and people will talk about it.
You don't even need anything that fits. Candace Owens has not said
true.
anything truthful.
That's true.
Right? Nothing at all, and yet people will run with it.
I've got a friend who always wants to talk to me about conspiracy theories like us not landing on the moon and that sort of thing. And early on at some point I said, don't even bring them up. I find them boring. I don't want to discuss them with you.
Yeah.
You don't, and if you bring up any facts that, like, yeah, I've heard that, but here's what happened. This is why the flag is
not waving on the moon or the stars or whatever.
It's like why the shadows are here. Like, enough. I'm done. I can't.
There was this guy who was dating a friend of mine, and she would bring him for dinner from time to time. And he would come over. My kids loved him because he was one of those.
As a kid, yeah.
As a kid, it's fun. As an adult, I'm like,
Loch Ness Monster and all that stuff. And yeah.
He said something funny. He said, oh, no, we landed on the moon, but the video equipment wasn't working, so we had to fake the video of landing on the moon, which was a new one. I hadn't heard that before. His stuff always sounded on the verge.
Yes.
The verge of like, do I believe this guy or not? Actually, he got something. You remember when Russia shot down that airliner and they were wondering what was it looking at and all that?
Yeah.
He got that 100% right from the get-go. He said it was like my first year on air. And I couldn't go on air with any of this stuff because he had no proof. But he's like, yeah, it was this kind of missile. They thought it was this kind of plane and they thought it was this and they shot it down. He was 100% right on that. So I guess occasionally, conspiracy theories are spoiler alerts, but most of the time they're crazy. When I went to Dallas, I've been to Dallas once in my life. I love Dallas, Texas. And I went to the book repository, which is now called the Sixth Floor Museum. It's a whole JFK thing. Very cool. It's one of the most fascinating museums I've ever been to. Outside, there are people who are still selling all the conspiracy theory stuff outside. They do this every single day just to make a buck. What really happened with JFK?
Yeah, and I remember Kirby said he went there as well and went up and looked out the window and down. He's like, I could have made that shot.
I said the same thing.
Yeah.
I said, okay, look, I like guns. I am not a master shot, okay? I am not. I'm not a crack shot. I'm none of those things. The guy next to me is standing there going, that's a really hard shot. And I went, are you kidding me? I could have hit that, and I'm not even that good at it. Yeah. All right, people got their conspiracies. Tell you what, just for fun, call us with your craziest conspiracy up next. Oh, we will take them. You give us a call or a text.
No, we won't. You've got an interview. What are you talking about?
All right, we won't take them. We'll do that tomorrow. We'll do conspiracy theories tomorrow. Up next, the interview Kevin was talking about, because there is one bill I agree with Turd Ferguson about. We're going to discuss it up next. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. The only one leading a double life, our very own Jeff Pogula from our sister station, Northwest News Radio, isn't just the senior political correspondent / reporter. He also does something else in his private time. Of course, nothing is...
You're setting this up so badly.
What do you mean it's perfect? Because now people want to know if you're doing the stuff he's doing. No,
I'm not,
man.
no.
No, of course not. What Jeff does do, though, is he spends a lot of his time being a referee for various sports. And it's funny because him and I have had many discussions about this because I used to coach baseball for years and years, and we'd argue about who's right, the parent, the coach, or the referee.
And it's an umpire in baseball.
I'm about to come down on your side, dude, because I am always, well, with small exceptions, almost always on the referee's side and almost never on the parent's side. Because, one, I want to win the game and I don't want to tick off the umpire or the referee or whoever it is. But number two, parents suck. And I say this as somebody who coached a lot of teams, but in all seriousness.
And as a parent.
And as a parent. I know that. You know, our kid comes first. But what's interesting is you've been covering the story about how there's more and more violence towards the referees, towards the umpires. Tell us about it.
Well, if you recall, about a year ago, there was the incident at the Kraken Community Iceplex up in North Seattle. Where a parent came out of the stands, got onto the ice, which is no small feat to do, and then walked pretty much half the length of the rink, about 7,500 feet, and shoved a 14-year-old referee to the ice.
Right. That was the thing that was most messed up. You have two kids that are like training referee types.
Yeah.
And this parent assaulted the kids.
Yes.
On video.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
And this happens more often than you would like to admit. And I personally, in my probably 30 years of officiating, 4 different sports at the college level and below, I've never been assaulted. I've been threatened. I've been, told we'll take it out in the parking lot. I've had my tires slashed.
Shut your face, really?
It's the most hated job in the world.
Okay, let me ask you this. Okay, not to put you too much on the spot, but sometimes the referees get it wrong. Sometimes the umpires get it wrong. Has there ever been a time where
human?
Well, of course. Look, I hate the robot baseball. I don't want the robots.
So you don't like the ABS, the automatic ball strike
I don't like this
thing?
whole thing that's going. I don't like it at all. I think this is the next step in getting rid of baseball. I really do. I truly believe that. But that's a different discussion for another time. Different discussion for another time.
That's a leap.
It's a take, but that's a different discussion for another time. Focusing on this issue here, is there ever a time where you went, crap, I blew that call.
Yes.
Now I'm going to hear about it.
Yes.
And then you do hear about
Yes.
it. So that does happen.
Yes.
Okay. See, at least he's being honest with us.
Yes. I mean, you're going to make mistakes.
Sure.
You're human. And particularly at the high school level and below, you don't have, the robust experience of crews working those games as you would, say, in the NFL.
Yeah.
For example, college and the NFL have 7 or 8 referees for a football game. High school has 5.
Yeah.
You still have 22 players on the field. You're going to miss things.
Well, also, you think about Little League, where there's a home plate umpire. They don't send you a whole crew. And you're asking the guy to judge stuff in the outfield where he's behind home plate. And half the time, the coaches can't see what's going on.
Yeah.
And neither can the parents on the one little bleacher that's on either side of the field.
Oh, but they think they can.
Well, they think they can because they want their kid who always strikes out. Oh, my God, it was almost a hit. He almost had the hit that time. So
the number of times that I've been told I'm costing someone's kid a scholarship is insane.
Okay, Jeff, do you know any kids that you have seen that went on to great careers?
Yes.
You've been doing this a long time. You do?
Yes.
So there were a couple?
Yeah.
Okay, so there were a couple. All right, but looking at this practically, what's being
TJ
done?
Oshie comes to mind.
There you go. So what's being done to protect the referees in this case?
There was a bill, Senate Bill 5272, that was passed in this last legislative session. Governor Ferguson signed it into law just last week.
Senate Bill 5272 extends certain protections from intimidating or abusive conduct that have long existed for teachers and faculty and extending that to referees and sports officials. This will help ensure referees can stay safe on the job and remind both students and parents of the importance of sportsmanlike conduct.
Now, I know you're not a big fan of Bob Ferguson or of the Democrats in general who put this forward. This is sponsored by John Lovick. He pushed the bill. I will admit I am not unbiased on this issue.
Well, I'll say this, is that a broken clock is right twice a day. And I am fine.
I hope you're referring to the governor and not me.
Well, I wasn't just, I have never actually seen you referee or umpire, so I have seen some of the people you've trained, and they seem pretty well trained. But I will say is that, look, when it's a good bill, we support a good bill. This one makes practical sense, especially some of the psychotic parents I've seen in my day. Luckily, they weren't on my teams. They were usually on the other teams that we dealt with.
But not everyone was a fan of this bill. Republican Representative Jeremy Default opposed it.
My concern that I have with this bill is that it expands penalties for certain groups of people who are engaging in these activities, namely adults, but it doesn't for the young people. Mr. Speaker, we need to teach our young people that actions have consequences. I believe that the punishment should always fit the crime, and that doesn't matter if you're an adult or if you're a young person. If you violate the law, the penalties should be the same. Setting up different categories of penalties for different individuals is not appropriate, especially when we are letting our young people off the hook for doing these despicable things that have been spoken against here on the floor today.
Now, to add a little context, under the bill, adults would face stiffer penalties if they commit these acts of intimidation or violence against a referee or an umpire or a game official. Whereas a student athlete, they could be suspended, expelled, might not face the criminal charges, depending on how the prosecutor wants to go. That was his objection to the bill.
So let me just play devil's advocate for a second here, okay? I think he's right, but also we live in Washington State, where kids almost never get charged for anything unless they kill somebody, unless they do something like seriously felonious, and many times they're even let off the hook when they have firearms. So what are the penalties for kids in this case? Basically just what you said, suspension, expulsion, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, and that's where certain people with youth advocacy groups weren't happy with the bill either. Portia Phelps was one of them. She's with the group Team Child. She testified against the bill.
Sports are highly competitive, creating moments of intense excitement for both players and parents. However, this competitive atmosphere can also lead to heated interactions between players, coaches, referees, especially when the call doesn't go in one's favor. We know that the adolescent brain isn't fully developed until age 25. This means young people struggle with emotional regulation in high-stress situations, penalizing them with severe consequences such as emergency suspension, jail time, or long-term removal from sports can be incredibly harmful. For many of these activities are their only motive to stay on a positive path.
Now, that was before the bill adopted a couple of amendments that lessened some of the penalties against minor student athletes.
Yeah, but I think that by not holding the kids to severe standards, you're actually putting the referees and even in some cases the parent coaches at risk. Because I've seen some psychotic children out there. They're not all perfect little angels who just get revved up because of the sport they're playing. And sometimes you get some pretty violent kids.
Well, during debate on all of this, Democratic Senator Lisa Wellman mentioned this.
I was really actually dismayed hearing how many coaches are being are causing part of the problem. It's not just the youngsters are losing control of themselves, but having coaches behave that way is very disturbing.
Not just the youngsters. As someone who's been working in this field for 30 years, it is almost never the youngsters.
Isn't it usually?
It is almost always the parents.
Right. Okay, is it always the parents or always the coaches?
Either or.
Either or. It's usually in that range. It's almost never the kids, and the kids are standing there awkwardly.
It's the adults that are the problem.
Right, which has been my case too. And also, I saw this when I was in middle school. I had a coach who was the best coach ever. Really just the nicest guy, led by example. And, we won from time to time, but we weren't that aggressive in high school. I had a coach who was just the bad guy in every movie. He was that guy.
What sport?
You name it. He coached all of them, okay?
Well, you played.
Basketball, baseball, okay? I quit both teams because of this guy. I didn't want to play for this guy. But he, yelled at the other team because a kid got hit by a line drive, is gushing blood on the AstroTurf, and he's yelling at and I'm like, that's not a man I want to play for. That's not a guy I want to be involved with. So, yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, and these incidents have gotten significantly worse. And more and more of them since I started in the mid-1990s. Like I said, I personally haven't been assaulted, but I have been threatened. I've been chased to the car by a deranged parent after a game. It's part of that, though, you have to expect as part of the job.
Not
that stuff.
Yeah.
But the disagreements, the yelling, you have to have a thick skin but it's when it gets to be personal and borders on violence and intimidation, that's when it becomes a problem, and that's what this bill is trying to address.
There was a sign I saw that always floats around at the beginning of spring training for Little League, which says, it's just a kid. He's just a kid. Like screaming at him, yelling at him. This sign, I wish I had a copy of it in my house. I have to find it and post it on social media. But the way people get ramped up about this stuff is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you something else, parents. I'm on Team Jeff 1,000% with this. I'm on Team Umpire. I'm on Team Referee. But I'll tell you this, parents.
Then I've got a striped shirt you can wear. There's a shortage of us.
I have one of my own, sir. Thank you very much from when I used to referee dodgeball tournaments. That's a whole another discussion as a fundraiser we used to do. But I will say this, is that remember the example you're setting for your kids. That is the stuff they will remember the rest of their lives. And one day they're going to coach their kids and they're going to cheer on their kids. Do you really want that to be the memory they have of you? And it's not too late to change that behavior. Jeff Pogula from our sister station, Northwest News Radio, and, of course, referee, umpire extraordinaire. Thank you so much for joining us
Anytime.
today. Do appreciate it. Only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news headlines put a smile on your face heading into your evening commute. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Only good news to wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And our good news today is local, my friends. According to Como News, the Seattle Seahawks will be featured on HBO's Hard Knocks during the 2026 training camp. The announcement was made during a general session at the NFL annual meeting where several upcoming league media projects were revealed. Are we going to have another season of the Cowgirl show, the cheerleader one? I like that show, and not for the reasons you think. My wife is watching it one time, and you walk in the room when your wife's watching something, and you either go, ugh, or you go, what's this? That's normally the only way this works, right? So I walk in, and it's Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, and I'm like, hey, I'll sit down for this. And then I'm like, why did the girl not make the team? Oh, she tried so hard. What happened? And I'm crying like a little girl watching that show. It's a fun show. Anyway, Hard Knocks is a long-running HBO series which offers behind-the-scenes looks at the NFL team during training camp. So, of course, get the Super Bowl champs. That reminds me, I got to check in with the White House. Haven't heard when the invitation for them to go to the White House is. Is the ballroom going to be done by then? I mean, come on. When's the invitation for? The Seahawks selection marks a notable moment for the franchise, which has not previously been featured on Hard Knocks. Also announced at the meeting, Season 3 of Netflix's Quarterback is set to return in July, and the New England Patriots, boo, will be featured on Hard Knocks in 2027. I guess that's what you get for being the runner-up. That's going to do it for us today. We will be back tomorrow with more insane stories and more exciting guests. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.